This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's also mention that this is the era where the WWF and WCW is down. I mean, professional wrestling is down in 93 and 94 and 95 and in early 96. The conversation starts brewing again. Hey, what about the Ultimate Warrior? And Bruce has said a lot on Something to Wrestle that Lisa Wolf used to say a lot. Vince just needs a hit. At this point, he's lost Hulk Hogan and he's trying to find the magic that he had a decade before with the original WrestleMania and being the king of pay-per-view. But by the mid 90s, all that's gone. And what we've got is Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and Kevin Nash. And these are talented guys, but for whatever reason, business is just not hitting the peak it was a decade prior. So if Hogan is locked up and doing things for WCW, maybe he looks to the other guy that was there when business was big, and that's the Ultimate Warrior. When do you remember that first becoming a topic of conversation within Titan Towers? Because now at this point, you're in that organization. When do you remember Vince first saying, what about Warrior?
Oh, mid 90s, Vince said he was having some conversation with Warrior, and, then of course Vince he knows everybody's mindset on Warrior. It's not positive. So Vince is trying to, Vince would say, well, he's changed a lot. He's matured. He can help us. He's still got that great name identity. He still looks wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And everybody that was in the room was kind of looking at their shoes like, oh, shit.
Right.
Dealing with this guy is a massive pain in the ass. And the thing about it is it's not just, okay, your job, like my talent relations job, I dealt with a lot of talents that were pains in the ass. However, you could deal with it one-on-one as long as they didn't alienate the locker room and they weren't a negative influence in the locker room. And he was. And there was nothing we could do about that. The perception of this guy was negative. It was counterproductive. But Vince, of course, being Vince McMahon was, much like I used the Fritz von Erich analogy earlier. Where Fritz, I can make this guy a star. If Watts couldn't manage him, I know how to manage athletes, blah, blah, blah. And so Vince probably had the same mindset in theory. Well, the guy's matured. We've all gotten better at what we do. We'll bring him in and we'll take care of him and he'll help us. And little we know, it's just going to be the start of another giant pain in the ass tenure.
Talk to me about your first meeting with him. I mean, is this a call that Vince makes to him and then sets up a deal with you? Or is this something where he says, Jim, just take his temperature, feel him out, see if we can get face to face?
He was much like when we negotiated with the NWO. I told Vince that we're going to get better results in signing Hogan, Hall, and Nash if Vince is in the initial conversation. So they can see they're dealing with the head of the company, which is what they needed, which they demanded, which they thought they deserved. Cool. No problem here. As long as we get them signed, that's what the boss wanted. And we did get them signed. After Vince's meeting, I took over that situation, and I always had good interactions with Kevin Nash, still a great friend of mine. Hogan, I didn't know well. It was a very business relationship at best. Scott, I'd known forever. I like Scott, still do. But Warrior was a guy that needed Vince's. He had to have Vince as his guy. He felt he deserved that. And none of us other peons were qualified enough to interact with him, his greatness. And so, but yeah, I remember going, I don't know if we're this part of our story or not, but I remember Vince, Linda, myself, and I think Cornette actually.
Bruce Pritchard was there too.
Brucey went to Arizona, right?
Yep.
And I never heard so much foul language. And look, we all are guys sometimes and curse and F-bombs and stuff. But I try to, when I'm around somebody's wife.
Right. That's different.
Different ball game, man. It showed me this son of a bitch had no respect for anybody, including women. Linda McMahon, as nice a person as there is as I ever work with, ever. Sweetheart of a woman. I really like Linda. Southern Belle, We all used to kid about that, our backgrounds and how similar they were, what our mamas cooked, and all these things. But him to do the F bomb, the C word, and this and that and the other, and try to explain disastrous, his new word.
Right.
It's going to be the foundation of Warrior University. It's a theory, it's a feeling, it's a vibe. It's horse shit. Go listen to some other motivational speaker you're stealing your shit off of. So it was. I lost all respect on that meeting. I don't know what Bruce has said about it, but it was. We were flabbergasted, and Vince was buying it. And then you got Bruce there, me, Cornette, three pretty good advisors, pretty good hands, and ignored. Vince, this ain't gonna work. All right, pal, we gotta make this work, pal. It'll work. I'll take care of it. No, you can't change the son of a bitch's mindset. You can't change his philosophy. He is what he is. As long as you recognize and identify what he is, you might be able to get something out of him. But it's not going to be anything near how you had him ready the first time at WrestleMania 6 with Hogan. It's not going to happen. But Vince, hard-headed, stubborn, the trait of a lot of promoters, thought he could. He thought he could resurrect this guy, and with some sort of some plan. But disastrous and being there in Arizona, and Warrior needed money real bad, but he didn't act like it, but he did. And so he was just, it was all about the money, man, all about the money. And I understand that. I understand you're pros. You got to make your money while you can. You got a short shelf life compared to other professions. But my God, you got to commit something. You got to put something back in to get something out. And he was never really overly overwhelmed and willing to put things back in that he was receiving. Excuse me.
Let's talk about disastrous for a minute. In my research, Jim, I learned that Warrior said the meaning of this is the truce between destiny and reality. He's saying, stay true to what you are right now while striving for your ultimate destiny. With that understanding, you a big believer in disastrous?
Shit, no. Come on, God. It means the difference between reality and fuck that. Get out of here. Sell that shit to somebody else, will you? We're not stupid. That was the thing about this guy. He thought he was smarter than everybody else. I guess because he was a fucking chiropractor. Hell, I don't know.
Let me ask, when you're in this meeting, I know we're talking about comic books. We should mention Warrior had a comic book, and I think he wanted Vince to commit to buying like 500,000 copies or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, as you've said before, that he wanted to know about the number of dates and the amount of money, but is creative discussed? Like, was he under the impression he was going to come back in 1996 and be headlining shows and be the world champion, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't think creative was ever discussed to any degree other than, you're going to be used very well type deal from Vince. His issue is, I've often said that talents leave a company for one of the two C's, cash or creative.
Sure.
He was concerned about the cash. Creative was not a big issue to him because he knew that Vince was not going to job him out.
No.
He wasn't going to be working the opening match. He wasn't a prelim guy. And he wasn't. With the money that we were going to pay him, you couldn't put him in a prelim spot. That'd been a bad investment in more than one front. But no, man, it was all about, he wanted to work less and make more. He wanted to have a big say in, what towns he worked. And it's, my God, we had nobody on the roster that had that mindset. Nobody that had that mindset that it was, micromanage his own deal. So nonetheless, that's where we were with him. I really believe Vince fell in love with the character back in WrestleMania 6 era. He never fell out of love with the guy, even though he was a pain in the ass and he was let go. I could look in the mirror and say, well, he let me go a couple of times too, but I hung around 26 years. But I goddamn sure put something in to get to take what I believe was mine to get out. So, but that disastrous thing, that whole meeting was about disastrous. He was so believed, what's that guy's name? The tall guy, the motivational speaker?
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. He kind of felt like he was a jacked up Tony Robbins. And they both had those huge white teeth, much like Matt Hardy. Those goddamn Bruce Dern teeth, huge. The world's most dangerous teeth, Matt Hardy. And I like Matt a lot. But no Conrad. It was a selfish deal. It was all one sided. This is what he had to have this, he had to have that. High maintenance. And here's the thing: you're bringing a guy back in the locker room who nobody likes anyway. Then you give him a nice deal, telephone, telegraph, tell the wrestler, as you referred to earlier. And the boys kind of assumed what he was making. They assumed what he was getting, how he was getting treated. Even little things. He's coming back. He's already flying first class. Well, now it's not a big issue now because a lot of people aren't flying, but nonetheless. So all of a sudden he's getting the A1 treatment. He left. He's been fired. He's a dissident. He's a malcontent, and now we're going to really take good care of him. A lot of guys, it didn't set well, and I can understand why. I had to justify it. I had to try to justify the talent. Hey, look, Vince see some money in this guy. If he gets over again, we'll all make money, and that's really the bottom line. We all make more money if this guy gets over. Whether we like him or we don't, irrelevant. He's on the team. He's got a jersey. It's our obligation to try to make this work. And I didn't get a lot of support on that theory.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.